The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
OOIDA is hosting its Truck to Success seminar in October. Over the next several weeks, we'll offer an extensive preview of the seminar, starting today with the help of Louis Pugh, Andrew King, and Charles Sperry of OOIDA. It's no secret that many truckers like a hearty breakfast, but where is the best place to get one and how much is it going to cost? I'll speak with Danny Jensen, managing editor of Cheapism, about the top three. And finally, we've talked recently on the program about a bill in Congress that could affect several vital issues in trucking, including speed limiters. I'll get an update on where that effort stands from Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our coverage of the USDOT Spring 2024 Unified Regulatory Agenda continues. It's a blueprint for upcoming rulemakings within DOT agencies like the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. We told you last week about the speed limiter mandate proposal being pushed back to May of next year, and that more information on proposed broker transparency rule is expected in October of this year. But there's much more packed into the agenda. For example, FMCSA expects to unveil a regulatory approach to automated driving systems in December. The agency plans to publish a notice of proposed rulemaking at that time. FMCSA has been garnering feedback in recent months as it seeks to provide guidance about autonomous technology. As part of its formal comments, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association told the agency that it should not roll out autonomous technology before it is ready. Meanwhile, a final rule to mandate automatic emergency braking systems on heavy-duty vehicles is not expected until early next year. Previous projections targeted this April for a rule. However, the new agenda states that FMCSA and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration are now planning to unveil the rule in January. The heavy vehicle proposal seeks to require AEB systems and electronic stability control systems on new Class 7 and Class 8 3 years after the rule takes effect. There would not be any retrofit requirements on existing heavy vehicles. During the formal comment period, OOIDA and individual truckers told the agencies that current AEB technologies are deficient and cited instances of false activations triggered by things like shadows and curves. And finally, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration plans to revisit its electronic logging device rule in 2025. In the fall of 2022, FMCSA requested feedback from truckers about how it can improve the ELD mandate. As part of that notice, the agency asked truck drivers for feedback on the original mandate's decision to exempt trucks with pre-2000 engines. As part of comments submitted to the agency, OOIDA said there is no justification for removing the exemption. Although it remains unclear exactly what FMCSA will propose, the agency appears poised to move forward with a notice of proposed rulemaking next year. The U.S. Department of Transportation has approved new funding to build a new bridge connecting Tennessee and Arkansas. The DOT told Congress late last week that it's investing more than $393 million on the project. The Departments of Transportation in Tennessee and Arkansas have each committed up to $250 million for the project. The new Interstate 55 bridge across the Mississippi River will replace the existing 75-year-old bridge, one of two connecting Memphis and Arkansas. It's projected to accommodate about 64,000 vehicles daily by the year 2050, up substantially from the current figure of 48,000. Meanwhile, $242 million in grant money will be used to replace an aging bridge in Wilmington, North Carolina. The Cape Fear Memorial Bridge that carries U.S. Highways 17, 76, and 421 over the Cape Fear River was built in 1969. And while it was rehabilitated in the spring and is safe, state officials say a replacement is overdue. Despite the recent upgrades, North Carolina transportation officials said it cost approximately $500,000 each year to maintain and operate it. Right now, the bridge carries 70,000 vehicles across the Cape Fear River each day. By 2050, that number is expected to grow to nearly 100,000 vehicles. Police in Chicago have issued an alert after a series of cargo theft incidents. Chicago PD says they're investigating a number of reports in the Deering area. In all of them, police say the thieves arrived in multiple vehicles, gained entry to the rear of semi-truck trailers, and removed contents. 3 separate incidents occurred on the same block on the same day last week. early Thursday morning on South Packers Avenue. Police are advising truck drivers and businesses in the area to be vigilant, specifically to be aware of surroundings, park vehicles in a well-lit area, and report suspicious activity immediately. Illinois is one of the hottest spots for cargo theft nationwide right now. Verus CargoNet says California, Texas, and Illinois represented 57% of all cargo theft throughout the second quarter of this year. Nationwide, reported incidents were up 33% in Q2 compared to a year earlier. A crime bill moving through California's assembly would make it easier to prosecute break-ins of passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. To convict a suspect of vehicle burglary under the state law right now, prosecutors are required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the car or truck was locked. The rule also requires that victims physically come to court to testify. The bill would remove that requirement to prove a vehicle door was locked. Instead, forcible entry of a car or truck would be enough to prove the crime. The California State Senate already approved a version of the bill. The full assembly is expected to vote on it soon. A truck driver caught up in what federal prosecutors called a nationwide large-scale cocaine trafficking conspiracy has been sentenced. Javier Perez pleaded guilty earlier this year to the charges against him. The Texas-based driver admitted to transporting about 30 kilograms of cocaine across state lines on behalf of a drug trafficking organization based in Mexico and Texas. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts says Perez was sentenced to 49 and a half months in prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. If you're traveling through the Southeast this week, you might notice more flashing lights on the roads. Law enforcement in 5 states are taking part in Operation Southern Slowdown 2024, a week-long speed enforcement and education campaign. Agencies in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee are working together to bring down the number of speed-related crashes. Officials say Operation Southern Slowdown not only focuses on strict enforcement, but also on public education to change driver behavior. The ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach are diverting $25 million toward new charging infrastructure in Southern California. The money will go toward projects spearheaded by the Mobile Source Air Pollution Reduction Review Committee. The plan is to install more than 200 new charging units at 8 sites. The Port of Los Angeles said in a news release that they're also partnering with the state of California to offer vouchers of up to $250,000 toward the purchase of a zero direct emission heavy-duty truck. A new travel center is coming to Northwest Texas. Valero has started construction on a new Chisholm Travel Center in Lubbock, Texas. When it opens sometime next year, it'll be the second Chisholm location in the area. And finally, an Alabama woman celebrating her 108th birthday offered up her secret to feeling young. It may not be for everyone, though. Helen Denmark told local news affiliate WDHN-TV last week that she drinks wine, eats dessert, and, quote, flirts with men with mustaches to keep a pep in her step. Denmark added she doesn't feel any older than she did when she was 107 and still feels healthy and strong. In fact, she's already planning her 110th birthday. So happy birthday, Helen. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates there were about 101,000 people over the age of 100 living in the country as of January. That number is expected to quadruple to about 422,000 by the year 2054. And that's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. If a carrier, shipper, receiver, or broker tries to coerce you into violating the regulations, document what happened, then either call 1-888-DOT-SAFT or file a complaint online to the National Consumer Complaint Database. Starting July 26, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Top Gun Large Car Shootout. That takes place at the Rantoul National Aviation Center in Rantoul, Illinois. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Next, Scott Thompson discusses what's in the upcoming Truck to Success seminar with Louis Pugh, Andrew King, and Charles Sperry of OOIDA, and I'll cover the best places to get a truck stop breakfast with Danny Jensen of the website Cheapism. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
ULSD is hurting your engine. Fight back with Howe's Diesel Defender. Get the most powerful cleaning and maximum lubricity to protect and extend the life of your entire system. At a guaranteed increase in fuel economy, and you can't go wrong with Howe's.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy, weigh your truck on a cat scale.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now. In October, OOIDA will be hosting its annual Truck to Success seminar. Over the next several weeks leading up to it, we're going to walk you through a good portion of those sessions, which will do two things. For one, it's going to give you a better idea of what's to be gained by attending Truck to Success. And two, you might just learn a few things along the way as well. Over the next several minutes, we're going to go over the basics of Truck to Success, such as what is it, who's it for, and what will you get out of it. With answers to all those questions and more, we are joined here in Studio A by three men who are featured prominently throughout the three-day seminar. Louis Pugh, Executive Vice President of OOIDA, along with Andrew King and Charles Sperry, both of the OOIDA Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome. Good to see you.
Great to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Good to be here.
Lots to get over here. Let's start with the basics, though, for those who may not be familiar, and I'm sure there are a few folks out there who are not. What is Truck to Success? And, again, who's it for?
Well, it's a 3-day seminar, and it's designed to take someone from being a company driver to then a leased-on owner-operator to eventually becoming an owner-operator under their own authority. So it covers all the gambit of that. It's very deep, very detailed, and it's like drinking from a water hose. Just a lot of information in that short time frame to, again, just following this logical progression to become an owner-operator. And then we do have people who join who aren't necessarily company drivers. They're already owner-operators. So it's anyone who's looking to improve their business, to become more successful. We're trying to cover all of those things.
No water hose, though.
I would almost say fire hose.
Fire hose, water, yeah,
fire
okay,
hose.
there you
yeah,
go.
Thank you. That's the
My dog drinks out of a garden hose. Just saying.
That's the phrase.
You will have bottled water though at the
Yes.
at the Truck Success. That's
OOIDA bottled water.
There it is. There you go. Very fantastic. So Andrew, and that's why I mentioned there, we're going to talk about all these sessions here over the next several weeks to kind of give people an idea of what they're going to get out of it. And Andrew, you do a pretty good job there of explaining what is covered, and there's a lot of stuff that's covered there. Briefly here, can you run us through the 3 days? Again, all the things that are being taught there, who's doing the teaching, and most importantly here, I think, what is going to be learned? And you kind of alluded to it there, Andrew, as well, but this is for anybody who wants to either start their own business or wants a refresher, right, Louis?
Yeah, a refresher. Maybe maybe you bought a truck and you're leased and you're thinking about getting your own authority, because we go all through all that as well. So yeah, that gives you the opportunity to kind of come in and find out, do you really want to get your own authority, or are you better off staying being leased to a motor carrier?
Because there are people that come in that completely change their mind too, right?
We've had lots of people come in. I mean, it's kind of funny. The first day, we're going to own 20 trucks when we're done. And by the last day, that same person's like, I got a really good job where I'm at. I think I'll just stay there.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
actually
I saw
good,
a guy at Louisville last year at Matt's, and he was one that took it. And he thanked me so much because he is not even in trucking now. He's selling truck componentry, and he's like, I am so glad I took your course because it saved me so much money and saved me from going down the wrong road, and I wouldn't have been a good owner-operator, and it wasn't like being an owner-operator wasn't everything I thought it was and what people told me it was, and I'm glad I did, and it worked out so much, so thank you so much. So yeah.
Yeah, but on the other side of that too, there are people that go there.
Yes,
that are
Don't
going.
forget that part.
Yeah, that's the important part, right? Because there are people, and there are people out there listening right now who may be thinking about going out on their own, and to say that is a big task is an understatement. There's a lot to be learned, a lot to know, right?
It's a huge task, and I tell everybody there's no book out there, Trucking for Dummies or Becoming a Trucking Company for Dummies, and it's very, very hard. And there's so much misinformation. And I know, I bought my truck in 1994, my first truck, so there was no internet, nowhere like that to search anything, and it was just sort of you had to talk to people, kind of learn as you went. Fortunately, I was smart enough to surround myself and with owner operators that were successful and get information from them, but you're still a big learning curve there. There's a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
And by taking Truck to Success, you take so much of that out of there. You don't have all the misinformation or the truck stop lawyers or all these other people out there telling you. These are people from both in-house at OOIDA or, partners of OOIDAs or stuff like that who have years and years and years and years of experience in the field that they are talking about, and they're giving you the truth. And sometimes it's not going to be what you want to hear, but at the end of the day, it is the truth, and this is how you have to do and what you have to do to be successful and be compliant.
Yeah, what you want to hear and what you need to hear are two different things. And when you're doing something like this, the stuff you need to hear is far more important than what you want to hear, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's a lot of that, there's a lot of that, right?
And this goes to a question we often get asked is, what's the success rate of this seminar? Well, that's a really difficult question because it's going to look different to each person, right? So what Louis explained before is a success, as well as someone who does end up getting their own authority and they find that information that they need to do that. Those are both successes. But when it comes to, listening to someone who, and Louis kind of talked about this, the experts. These are people mostly from OOIDA, but we also have some people from outside of our building, experts in other fields like taxes and things like that. We even have pre-pass as well who talk about different elements of trucking. So you're getting the information right from the people who do it day in and day out. You're not getting it from, some kind of source that may be a little bit questionable. So you're getting that right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, and we have enforcement come in, talk about what DOT's looking for, stuff like that, and your back office. There's just so much to this. And there's, everybody thinks I buy a truck and I get on a load board and start hauling some loads.
There's a lot of people that think that.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and unfortunately, we get a lot of calls in here from members or maybe people that aren't members who become members because they thought that they bought trucks and now they're out here and they're struggling. Our compliance department deals with this almost on a daily basis. And that's part of the reason we structured this and came out with this Truck to Success program, was to try to alleviate that and help people. And I can't stress enough, buying a truck is probably one of the most expensive things you're ever going to do in your life, maybe second to your home, maybe more than your home. My first truck cost more than my first home. So it's very, very expensive to get into this business. I know there's some expense with coming to Truck to Success, but the thing is, spend a little bit of money to make sure you either A, you even want to do this and spend a lot of money, or B, spend a little bit of money to come back and be successful so you can make a whole lot of money.
And I wanted to point that out because the idea of this, it's 3 days, but if there is somebody that is making that leap and taking that step, this is really a step-by-step plan for being successful, right? You start with creating a business plan, which we're going to talk about next time, all the way through, again, purchasing a truck, getting your authority, all the paperwork, the taxes, everything. So if you're looking to do this is going to take you step by step through that process, right? That's the idea here.
100%. And the other thing I want to say, because this happens with a lot of these seminars, but ours isn't this way. We're not selling you nothing.
Yeah.
We're not pushing a product on you. We're not pushing OOIDA products over this person. Our partners are coming. They're not pushing that. This is straight up all informational stuff. There's no infomercials or anything like that happen at a lot of things like this. You pay and you get a little bit of information and you get a whole lot of stuff more that they want to sell you. That isn't how this works. This is to teach you, because at OOIDA, we care about truckers. We want truckers to be successful. And that's all this is training to be successful.
And another thing, too, and you mentioned it there, this is a good networking opportunity as well, right? Because when you go to this, you're going to have questions. There are going to be things that are not going to make sense, and you're going to wonder, how do I fit into this? Those people, those experts are right there in the building, in the room, really, to answer those questions and really give you a step-by-step, personalized kind of, recommendations to do the things the right way, right?
Yeah. One of the most interesting things that I've seen time and time again is that, especially at like truck shows and stuff like that, people come up and talk to you. And the ones that have come up and spoken about their experience of Truck to Success, one of the primary things that they've always talked about is the fact that they were right there with other people, making face-to-face contact with experts in the industry, and they were able to talk to them about their specific problems that they may have faced. Maybe it's a problem that everybody faces, or maybe it's a problem that's just unique to their own experience. Regardless, they were actually able to talk to these people and get the answers that they needed. And I think that one of the things that we tend to forget, especially in our very digital age, where everybody's connected online and whatnot, that face-to-face connection is incredibly important, both in business, if you're talking to a broker and trying to make that business connection, or trying to talk to a shipper and secure your own little lane. That face-to-face connection is just invaluable. It's something that you cannot replace just looking at a video on a screen.
Yeah. And then the conversations, I've sat in these before, and the conversations that are generated from one question, it really is, there's a lot of value in that, because everybody's learning from that process as well. So that's also valuable.
Yeah, it's very valuable. And another nice thing is, sometimes you don't think of your question right at the time that somebody's talking. So like later on during the day or the next day, even if you thought of something like, hey, I wanted to ask this person, that person's usually right here. Or if not, they're not there, they're at the building. We can get them back in touch with the right person to get that question answered correctly if we can't answer it ourselves.
Well, and the other networking thing is not just networking with the experts that are teaching it, but also with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually a lot of benefit just there. A lot of these guys and gals are coming from different parts of the country, and just sharing their stories, sharing their experiences makes everyone better. So there's that element as well.
Especially in times like these, when the environment is so challenging, right? And if you're thinking about taking this step, those conversations become more and more helpful along the way. Louis, I wanted to ask you something, because you mentioned that you talk about this actually a lot when you talk about this seminar and other things. There is no Trucking for Dummies book, right?
Right.
And you wish that there were something like this when you were starting out, because you think it would have helped you along the way. How do you think, and maybe there wouldn't have been much change, but do you think your days on the road would have been any different, early days in particular, if you had attended something like Truck to Success?
Yeah, I feel like that, fortunately, I was successful and made it, but I feel like the first few years I pretty much lived hand to mouth, and didn't have any much extra, and just hoping to get those loads delivered and make sure if something happened there was enough money in the bank account to pay for it. I used to joke that it seems like every time I got a little money saved, something broke, and then there it all went. And it just seemed like it took a long time to finally, get a foundation or get a basis and then build. And I feel like that would have gotten speeded up a little quicker. I bought my first truck when I was 22 years old, and I was a dumb kid and didn't know much. But, fortunately, I had a good work ethic, and I had good people I surround myself with. But there's still stuff you don't know or you're not sure. The state of Missouri taught me a hard lesson about being compliant and having this thing called a single state registration. I didn't know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
I just took a load and I'm going to Colorado. And I get to Missouri and they're like, where's your single state registration?
You're like, huh?
I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what that is. $1,000 later, buddy, I knew what it was.
Yep. And again, those are the things that you're going to learn through the seminar. Real quick here, I just want to make sure that people know there are two ways to attend, right? In person, virtually. Walk us through that, and then walk us through the deadlines that we need to know about.
So they can go to trucktosuccess.com, and there you can find the registration for either or. You'll fill out whether you're going to do it in person or whether you're going to do it online. In person, of course, is a little bit more expensive because we help pay for the breakfast and the lunch and the snacks and that sort of thing. You can also bring a guest. But the deadline to register for in person is October 1st. For online is October 21st. And then don't forget that there is an early bird special September 1st where you will get $50 off plus a year's free membership as well.
The seminar running for 3 days starting October 22nd in Blue Springs, Missouri. Truck2Success.com is the website. Go check it out. Charles, Andrew, Louie, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
We'll see you there.
And we'll take a quick break. Landline Now returns in just a moment.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Less weight, more freight. Truckdown.com.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Landline Now. Welcome back. It's no secret that many truckers like a hearty breakfast, but where's the best place to get one, and how much is it going to cost? A website called Cheapism has taken a look at the topic, producing a list they call America's Absolute Best Truck Stops for Breakfast. And while not all of the entries on the list are traditional truck stops, with some just being adjacent to a truck stop, it's an interesting list for truckers with an empty stomach and a big hunger. I spoke with Danny Jensen, managing editor of Cheapism, about the top 3 eateries on his list. What led you to look into this topic in particular? What was it? I mean, you're not a trucking publication, so what kind of led you here?
Sure, yeah. So I'm the managing editor for cheapism.com, and our focus is really about helping people to save time, money, and their sanity as well, especially as things get more expensive. We say, being alive is expensive. And so we explore sort of a number of different topics with that. We cover food and travel, just personal finance and money tips, things like that. And we found, a lot of us have found taking road trips places across the country or just even within our own state. It's not only a great way to save time and save money, and but also just to get to know the state more, get to know the country more. And so with that, we've explored a number of different stories that are great for that. So, whether you're taking a road trip in your car, RV, or if you're driving a truck as well. So we wanted to kind of look for all these great hidden gems. Especially when it comes to when you're traveling, it's easy to you see a lot of the bigger chain restaurants, and that's sort of familiar, and I kind of know the spots to go to. But we often want to mix things up a little bit, right? So we'll look for the hidden gems and the places that just have a great deal, so you can save money, but it's also something delicious and something different to have on the road.
Well, you mentioned those hidden gems, and obviously you want to go for something that's good and also inexpensive, as you mentioned, but you're talking about a huge territory here, trying to find these across the entirety of the 50 states. How did you develop the list? What was your process to find these places?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, our writer Charlene Fang, she did a lot of research on that and looked into a variety of things. So she looked at Google reviews, TripAdvisor. In particular, she looked at trucker forums, Reddit, the subreddit for truck drivers. Because really looking for places that people actually like and go to, and want to share those that if those that are working on the road. It's not just we might have another story that's on roadside restaurants, but it maybe doesn't make sense if you got a rig and you need to pull over somewhere. A lot of these places she focused on offered other amenities as well that particularly help, whether it's showers or lounges, other places to and parking, of course.
Well, let's go ahead to the top of your list here. And the first item on your list was actually a food trailer that's near 2 truck stops, the Petro and Loves at exit 9 off Interstate 80, called the Balkan Grill Company. And I'm wondering if you can start off by telling us a little bit about it, where it is, and what sort of food it offers.
Yeah, so again, this is one of the one of the spots we wanted to mix things up a bit, because there's like I said, there's kind of the restaurants, but maybe you're looking for something a little different and something to mix things up. The Balkan Grill Company in Gary, Indiana. Also, it's a hearty Serbian fare. So they have these spiced beef sort of patties that come with a side of what's a sort of traditional homemade cream cheese, kajmak, and kind of things that are just gonna fill you up and sort of have flavors that are maybe somewhat familiar but a little something different. And they're everything's made from scratch, so you're getting just a hearty home cooked meal. And again, like the price is a consideration that we took into account. So the average breakfast cost there is $15, which again gets you a hearty meal, not just kind of a light quick bite.
Well, you don't see a lot of places in truck stops or near truck stops offering Serbian food,
right.
Which is kind of unusual. But I am curious, aside obviously from it being an unusual cuisine, what set this particular place apart from the other parts of your list?
Sure. I think that, one of the things we do like to do is kind of really support, smaller businesses and places and sort of, mom and pop spots. So I think that was also a consideration, but also just the great reviews. And people found it to be just an easy spot too, all these places we consider where you can sort of pull off the road fairly easily or on stretches that long haul truckers are going to be taking.
Do they have a specialty of the house, best breakfast item? Did you look at that kind of thing?
They have a lot of pork kebabs and the freshly baked bread that they make in house. So those are kind of some of the big things. It's definitely going to be something out of the ordinary, but I think worth trying out for sure.
Well, second on your list is a name that a lot of truckers are going to be familiar with, which is Dysert's, exit 180 on Interstate 95, which is a very, very long time truck stop in Maine. What specifically drew you to Dysert's?
Sure, yeah. This is sort of just classic breakfast spot. We have some of a mix. Obviously, all the places on the list are breakfast, but this is they're considered known for just like hearty breakfast, the classic chicken, classic sausage and homemade biscuits, French toast. But they're also known for the best pie in Bangor, and a lot of people say in the area and the region. So definitely worth that. They got the fruit pies. Obviously, blueberry, a favorite of Maine, but also they do a chicken pot pie, and they have hot sandwiches and just a nice variety of options there too. Because sometimes you want something other than maybe eggs and toast for breakfast, and mix it up.
Well, and a lot of people are very fond of their bakery, which is kind of separate, as I understand it, from the restaurant. You mentioned the pie. Did you try any of the other bakery items that are for sale there?
The writer, I'd have to ask her, but yeah, I haven't had a chance myself. I know it's one that I'm sending my brother there because he's not far.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, was there something specific on their menu in terms of regional Maine food? I know, for example, that on lunch and dinner they have poutine, which is kind of a food from that region. But what about breakfast? What were the regional Maine foods on the breakfast menu?
Yeah, as you mentioned too, like the baked goods are factored in there. So even like their French toast is made with their house-made bread. But then you also get, if you get the, say, eggs for breakfast, the omelet, you've got home fries, but you also have Maine baked beans too. So that's, kind of people think of sort of New England and Boston and baked beans, but also the up in Maine there. And then, as I mentioned too, just some of the blueberries, and another one, which again is sort of maybe not a traditional breakfast item, but they do haddock chowder. So obviously a big appeal for being in New England. I got out of the chowder. I myself grew up in Boston, so that's definitely something that's going to fill you up and be hearty for the road.
Okay, what is their average cost for breakfast there at Dysert's?
Sure, yeah, Dysert's they come in around $12.25.
Okay, so a little bit cheaper there. Well, the next one on your list here was Brody's Diner, and you mentioned Boston, of course, and it's in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And again, not an actual truck stop, but very close by Flynn's truck stop, which is right off the Hartford Turnpike, US 20 at State Highway 140. And it did appear to have plenty of truck parking there right nearby. Is the restaurant, is Brody's Diner actually attached to Flynn's truck stop, or is it a separate kind of thing?
I have to double check, but I believe it is a separate thing. But yeah, as you say, close by there. Some of the places we feature too have, like I say, it's built into the truck stop itself. Others are just right there, close proximity. But yeah, that's a great one. And if anyone's watched the Seinfeld show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, they filmed an episode there. But they're also just known for their big portions, particularly buttermilk blueberry pancakes, and their just sort of hearty breakfast options there.
Okay, and what is their average cost?
So for them, they are even less. So $8.99 is their average breakfast cost.
Okay, so we're kind of going down the scale here. I like that. We got a little bit of time left, and I wanted to ask you something more general. If you were recommending to someone what sort of things to look for to find a good truck stop restaurant to eat at for breakfast, what are the signs that having done this list that you would recommend people look for?
Sure, yeah. If you have the chance to kind of look in advance and you kind of check out reviews, I mean, I think, sometimes it's hard to filter through, whether it's TripAdvisor or Yelp, and try to think like, what's going to appeal to me here. But I think looking to maybe what other long haul drivers have enjoyed, kind of taking that into account. Obviously parking is, a big factor. And any place that you could sort of spend a little bit more time if you need to take a break from the road. I'd say it's a good option. And I think, something, you mentioned the bakery with Dysarts, and I think it's nice to kind of have an option where it's like you can stop to eat and enjoy a great meal, fill you up, but also be able to maybe grab something to go, whether it's a baked good or a sandwich or something else. If you don't have another good option further on down the road to have that.
Well, and as I said earlier, truckers do love those bakeries, so that's always a popular option. Is there anything else about the topic that you want to include, Danny, or maybe I didn't ask about that you think I should have?
Well, just to mention too, and we spoke before too, we have a number of other stories that we cover that I think would appeal to drivers, but also just to people out on a road trip. So we try to, kind of keep that open-ended, but certainly, famous convenience stores across the country, beautiful and unusual rest stops across America. So, really try to look for, as we said in the beginning, really the hidden gems, the sort of places that maybe the locals know about, or if, you're saying you're familiar with a particular rest stop, to go there. But you might not know if it's unfamiliar territory. So we really try to track those down and find the ones that are well reviewed and are going to be a good deal as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for all the information. We sure appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
That was Danny Jensen, managing editor of the website Cheapism, talking about their list titled America's Absolute Best Truck Stops for Breakfast. We'll have a link to the full list and to where you can read more from cheapism.com on our website, landlinenow.com. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now. Welcome back. We talked recently on the program about a bill in Congress that could affect several vital issues in trucking, including speed limiters. Here with an update on where that effort stands is Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm tired.
Well, it's busy up there, isn't it?
It is. It's a little chaotic. We're having to learn to function in chaos, but every day seems more chaotic than the last. But we're still getting results. We're still moving the ball forward for truckers, and I'm happy to talk about these bills because they include a lot of really critical elements that'll affect the lives of truckers, hopefully.
Well, first of all, before we get into the issues that are in this bill, I'm wondering if you can just describe in layman's terms. We're talking about an appropriations bill. What is that, and how does it differ from other measures that go through Congress?
Sure. An appropriations bill is simply a bill that is crafted to fund a specific federal department or agency. The one we've focused most closely on is obviously the Department of Transportation, which is combined with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And as a result, it is called the THUD bill, or as I like to call it, the THUD bill, because it's Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development. But that bill basically charts out a year's worth of federal funding for the Department of Transportation, and oftentimes you can use that bill to affect policy as well. And I think that's what we're going to get into here, because we have certainly capitalized on opportunities to affect policy at the Department of Transportation through their funding.
Well, I know one reason that bill's kind of attractive is Congress actually, this is one of the few things Congress is constitutionally mandated to do.
Yes.
But there's other things, that have gotten policy to creep in there over the past few years. Can you kind of explain some of the factors that have made these bills more than just spending?
Yeah, you're right on both accounts. First off, they do have to pass these bills. That doesn't mean they always do, though. I mean, a lot of times they pass Band-Aids to give them more time because they've exceeded the deadline. I mean, when we talk about a potential government shutdown, it's because Congress hasn't passed these bills. But the goal is to get them done before the end of the fiscal year, which is in late September, the last day of September. And they're still kind of on track to get that done. The reason there's been more policy discussions and elements in these bills is simply because the quagmire here on Capitol Hill in Congress has prevented a lot of the committees and, frankly, the House and the Senate at large from getting its work done on passing policy legislation. So as a last resort, a lot of folks have turned to these appropriations bills as an attempt to affect policy simply because there's not many other options to do so.
Well, and I know you mentioned, and this has been years ago that you said this to me, that appropriators used to occupy themselves with earmarks, which, this is where this money's going to go. And they don't do those anymore. So they kind of have just for lack of something other to do, have gotten into this policy stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if we're being totally honest, the lack of earmarks in recent iterations of these bills has kind of prevented them from garnering the bipartisan support they once did. When I started on Capitol Hill, and granted that was 20 years ago, I mean, these bills passed easily in the spring, and you didn't have to worry about that September deadline because your work was already done. Earmarks went away, and now we have these fiscal cliffs that we're always approaching at the end of September, wondering if Congress is going to be able to fund the government or if we're going to see some sort of a shutdown. But when we talk about transportation, the Department of Transportation is kind of protected from those fiscal cliffs and potential shutdowns because a lot of their funding, most of the funding for highways, in fact, comes through the Highway Trust Fund, which keeps moving. I mean, you keep paying your taxes no matter what status the government's in. So, again, the Department of Transportation is largely insulated from the pitfalls of a government shutdown. But that doesn't stop us from trying to enact certain policy provisions within these bills because, again, when all is said and done, they are must-pass legislation.
Well, we've got a number of issues to cover here, so I'm wondering if we can kind of do a lightning round and just name the issues and how this bill would affect them. And the first, of course, is speed limiters.
Yeah, the transportation spending bill has what I've been envisioning as three big priorities for truckers, the first being speed limiters. And there's language in there which is what you would call a policy rider, which basically says Department of Transportation cannot use any of the funding that it is being provided in this bill to advance the rulemaking for speed limiters on heavy vehicles. That's something we've pushed with certainly a coalition of other industry stakeholders, but we've really been the lead on this because it has become our last resort to preventing the Department of Transportation and specifically FMCSA from moving forward with that speed limit mandate. It was included in last year's bill. It's included in this year's bill again. It hasn't been signed into law, and frankly, we're concerned it won't be again this year simply because the Senate hasn't included similar language in their appropriations bills. So when the two chambers have to negotiate the differences between the bills, it's much better to have this language included in both because then they don't have to negotiate at all. They just move forward with it. So the fact we don't have this language in the Senate is still a major hurdle, but there's a lot of time left in this game to see how this unfolds. The second big piece of policy in this bill is a set aside of $200 million for truck parking for the next fiscal year, which is certainly something we applaud. We'd like to work on some of the details of that language to ensure all that money's going for building out capacity. But we're really pleased with the fact that the federal government and specifically Congress has said, let's start setting aside money for truck parking because that's the only way we're going to start solving the current shortage and the current crisis. The third element, which might sound like a bit of a broken record, but it's a positive broken record, I guess you could say, for some folks in our industry and some OOIDA members, certainly, excuse me, is that there is an ELD exemption included in this bill for folks hauling agricultural products, and that has been in place for a number of years. Unfortunately, we are dependent on this appropriations process to make sure that is included year after year. But Congress has been consistent, and again, they are saying ag haulers will be exempted from ELD requirements, which has been the standard since the mandate went into effect a couple of years ago. That's the end of my lightning round, I think.
Well, we've got a minute and a little bit more left here, and there is another appropriations bill out there that we have interest in, which is the one for the Department of Labor, and it's got some stuff in it regarding who's an employee and who's an independent contractor, which is kind of a hot button these days. You wouldn't think so, but it is. What would this bill require in terms of that issue?
Well, this bill was written by Republicans, and they don't like the Biden administration's 2024 independent contractor rule. And frankly, we're pretty comfortable with that rule. It's pretty good. It kind of returns us to a position of normalcy as far as worker classification is concerned for a lot of owner-operators who want to remain independent contractors. And in fact, we have a little bit of a concern about this bill basically wiping the Biden rule away and reverting to the Trump rule simply because there were some elements in the Trump rule, while it was largely supported by us at OOIDA, there were some elements in there we had concerns about, including provisions that would allow motor carriers to force independent contractors to use safety devices, and we use that term loosely because one of them was speed limiters, inward-facing cameras was one. They could require their motor carriers to use these safety devices, and that wouldn't be considered an element of control, which we think certainly it is. I mean, if you're requiring folks to install devices on their trucks that monitor them quite directly, like an inward-facing camera, or their ability to operate at a safe speed that they feel is necessary, we think that is certainly exerting control over an independent contractor and should be considered an element of control. So basically what we did was we said, hey, appropriators, we know you're not big fans of this Biden rule, but frankly, we think it's a well-written rule that addressed a lot of OOIDA's concerns very directly. So we kind of want to see that in place, especially because the Trump rule has that speed limiter and inward-facing camera language, which we don't like.
Okay. Well, Colin, we're out of time, but thank you for the information. It's okay. It's a lot.
It is. Thanks for giving me some time to explain it, though, because I know it is pretty intricate.
I've been talking with Colin Long of OOIDA. That's our program for today. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to Prepass.com.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.